It was supposed to be a normal Tuesday, but instead, I opened my lunchbox and stared at something. I'll never forget, my sandwich had been replaced with a squishy, foul-smelling pile of canned dog food. And from that moment, something inside me broke quietly, but permanently. My name's Ellie. I'm 16, and that was the day I decided enough was enough. I sat frozen in the crowded cafeteria, staring at the brown mush where my turkey sandwich used to be. Laughter erupted from the far table, the same group of girls who'd been making my life miserable for months. Madison, the ringleader, held up her phone, recording my reaction, while her little minions Zoe and Rachel cackled like it was a Netflix comedy special. "Oops," Madison said loud enough for half the room to hear. "Looks like Ellie's going gourmet today." I quickly slammed the lid shut, my face burning. I wasn't even angry at first, just humiliated. The worst part, no one came over to help. No teachers, no classmates, not even a pity glance. Everyone either laughed or looked away. I stood up, left my untouched lunch, and locked myself in the restroom for the rest of the period. My stomach growled, but the lump in my throat was louder. Back at home that night, I didn't say a word to my mom. She was always busy juggling her night shifts and worrying about rent, and I didn't want to pile my school drama on top of her stress. But I couldn't sleep. I lay there thinking about how many times I'd swallowed their pranks notes taped to my back gum on my seat, fake messages on my locker. I'd hoped that ignoring them would make them stop. But now I was done playing nice. I started mentally documenting everything. Who laughed the loudest, who joined in, who recorded. I noticed that Madison never ate gluten. Zoe always drank oat milk, and Rachel was obsessed with anything labeled vegan. They had rules, patterns, rituals. And I had an idea. That night, I wrote a single line in my journal, one I underlined 3 times. "They think this is a game, I'll show them how it ends." The next morning, I walked into school with my usual hoodie and my head down. But I wasn't the same Ellie. I wasn't going to cry in the bathroom again. I was going to make them taste their own cruelty, literally. The rest of that week I kept to myself, but I watched everything, every move they made. I noticed how Madison only trusted snacks from her pink bento box, how Zoe liked to leave her drink unattended while gossiping, and how Rachel always asked for gum from anyone who had a purse. They didn't just bully, they performed. They needed an audience. They craved power, and their cruelty was always wrapped in popularity. But they had weaknesses, and I was memorizing them. I didn't lash out. I didn't tell a teacher. I didn't even tell my best friend Lily. I needed this to be mine. Something about holding the plan in my chest like a burning coal gave me back a piece of control. I kept smiling when I had to. I acted quiet, unbothered, predictable. That way they wouldn't see what was coming. Every afternoon I went home and researched. I Googled how to make edible slime, how to bake realistic-looking cookies with horrible ingredients, and even found a Reddit thread about prank recipes that looked delicious but taste disgusting. I wasn't trying to poison them. That wasn't the point. I just wanted them to feel what I felt, betrayed by something that looked safe, ridiculed by people who watched. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. Madison cornered me at my locker. She was chewing gum like she was bored, but her eyes were sharp. "Hey, Ellie," she said, leaning in too close. "You're not still mad about the whole dog food thing, are you?" "It was just a joke." I didn't flinch. "No," I said, giving her a fake little laugh. "Honestly, it was kind of creative." Madison blinked. She wasn't expecting that. "Cool," she said slowly. "I guess you're tougher than you look." I nodded. "Guess so." She walked away with a smirk, thinking she'd won. But what she didn't know was that the moment she turned her back, I dropped my smile and pulled a little notepad from my backpack. I added one more note. Madison responds well to fake praise, uses it to feel superior. That night, I raided the kitchen while Mom was working late. I made a batch of cookies using salt instead of sugar, filled the center with crushed pretzels soaked in vinegar, and shaped each one to look like a trendy TikTok snack. I labeled them as Ellie's secret recipe and made sure they looked Instagram-worthy. I didn't plan to offer them directly. No, that would be suspicious. Instead, I knew someone would ask if they saw me eat one. So the next day, I packed the box and waited. I bit into one with a straight face in the cafeteria, just enough of a nibble not to suffer. Then I accidentally left the box on the table. 5 minutes later, Zoe was reaching for one. And just like that, the first bite of payback had begun. Zoe took the bait. She didn't even ask, just grabbed a cookie with her glossy manicured fingers and popped it into her mouth like she owned it. Madison and Rachel were mid-conversation, their backs turned so they didn't notice the brief flicker of disgust cross Zoe's face. But I did. I watched her blink, chew slower, and then swallow like it physically hurt. "Oh my God," she muttered under her breath, shaking her head. "That was weird." I leaned in, pretending to look concerned. "Is something wrong?" She gave me a tight-lipped smile, probably too proud to admit she hated it. "No, just strong flavor." I nodded, tucking the box back into my bag like I didn't care. But my heart was racing. That one small win felt electric. From there, things moved fast. The next day, I came prepared with a fresh batch. This time it was peanut butter balls, except I swapped the sugar for a high dose of cinnamon and added just enough baking soda to make them taste like regret. I left them in the student lounge with a sticky note, "Free treats." Made too many. I even added little hearts. By lunch, the entire table of popular girls was buzzing. "I had one," said Rachel, frowning. "Was it just me, or did it taste like soap?" Madison rolled her eyes. "You're just sensitive." I passed by with my tray, pausing dramatically. "Oh, those were mine. I tried a new recipe. Maybe I added too much of something." Madison raised an eyebrow. "You made those?" "Yeah. I've been experimenting lately." She smirked. "Weird hobby." I just smiled and kept walking. But behind me, I heard Madison say, "Honestly, it tasted better than what Ellie usually eats." Laughter again. Of course. That night, I got bolder. I started crafting a plan for the main event, something that couldn't be dismissed as a weird snack. I needed a prank with a punchline, something unforgettable. Then it hit me. Smoothies. They love posting gym selfies and sipping pastel smoothies on Instagram. So I made 3, one pink, one green, one purple. They looked aesthetic. But the ingredients, let's just say, each one had its own little surprise. The pink one had mashed sardines blended with strawberry yogurt and beet juice. The green one was a mix of kale pickles and expired almond milk. The purple one, a vile combo of blueberries, garlic, and protein powder. I knew Madison would reach for the pink. She always did. The next day, I brought them in a cute insulated bag and placed them on the free table in the courtyard with a small sign, "Leftover from a food styling project. Totally edible, totally Insta-worthy." From behind the bench, I watched. Rachel hesitated. Zoe shrugged. Madison, of course, grabbed the pink one, posed with it for a selfie, and took a long sip. Then she gagged. "What the?" she screamed, dropping the cup as liquid splashed down her sweater. Her face twisted in horror, and for the first time, no one laughed. Except me. Inside, I was laughing loud. The sound Madison made, half gag, half shriek, echoed across the courtyard like a fire alarm. Students turned. Phones came out. For once, the queen of cruelty wasn't the one laughing. She was the punchline. "What was that?" she yelled, coughing and wiping her tongue with the edge of her sleeve. Her face was red, her voice rising with every word. It tasted like fish and rotten yogurt or something. Zoe and Rachel hovered beside her, stunned into silence. Madison looked around, demanding answers. "Who put these here? Who brought this trash?" I waited a beat, then stepped forward slowly, pretending to glance at the mess. "Oh no." "Was it bad?" I asked, sweetly, eyes wide. "I made those for a photography class. I thought they were still good." "You made this," Madison hissed. "You poisoned me." I blinked. It was just sardines and yogurt. Totally safe. But maybe it fermented a little in the sun. Some people snorted behind me. Actual snorts. Laughter. Madison's eyes narrowed like lasers. "You did this on purpose." I gave her a half smile. "Why would I do that? I thought we were friends now." "Remember, just a joke." "That's what you said," Zoe muttered. This is messed up, and backed away from Madison, looking like she wanted to disappear. Rachel looked pale. Madison stormed off, smoothie dripping from her hand sweater, ruined, and dignity leaking behind her with every step. That afternoon, the school group chat exploded. Screenshots of Madison's meltdown, clips of her spitting the drink back out. Memes started popping up with captions like "smoother than Ellie's revenge" and "sips tea," literally. I didn't post any of it. I didn't have to. The school had turned on her like flipping a light switch. The power she once held gone, but I wasn't finished. The next morning, I walked into homeroom with a new energy. People glanced at me differently, like I wasn't invisible anymore. I saw a few nods. A girl I barely knew even whispered, "That was genius." But Madison wasn't done. Not yet. She cornered me again near the vending machine. "You think you're clever, Ellie. think this makes us even. I looked her dead in the eyes. You swapped my sandwich with dog food and laughed while I ate in humiliation. What I did, I let you taste your own flavor of cruelty. You're not better than me, she spat. No, I replied calmly. I'm just done being smaller than you. Her mouth opened to reply, but Mr. Vickers, our vice principal, appeared from around the corner. Ladies, everything okay? Madison stepped back. Fine. But she wasn't fine. She was unraveling. And I was just getting started. Because revenge wasn't about one prank, it was about balance. And she'd thrown the scale so far off, I still had work to do. After the smoothie incident, Madison's empire started to crumble. Her minions. Zoe and Rachel weren't laughing anymore. They started keeping their distance slowly at first, like passengers trying to step off a sinking ship without drawing attention. The gossip channels that once worshipped her now fed on every second of her humiliation. Her Instagram comments were full of smoothie emojis. Someone even changed her name in the group chat to Queen Fish Yogurt. And the best part, I didn't lift a finger. Not after that day. But people assumed I had more in store. The way they looked at me shifted not just with respect, but caution. Even the teachers noticed how Madison had suddenly gotten quiet, how she avoided the cafeteria, and how I walked through the halls with my head just a little higher. Still, there was one final piece to finish the story. You see, Madison had one sacred thing left the spring assembly. She was hosting. It had been prepping her monologue and outfit for weeks. That was her stage, her spotlight, and I was about to dim it. I spent the next few days designing a slideshow, one that looked innocent like a fun class presentation. And I got access through the AV Club thanks to my friend Jonah, who owed me a favor. I told him I wanted to run a video reflection project at the assembly. No questions asked. The slides started with sweet clips of school memories, pep rallies, clubs, dances. Then came the funny moments reel. That's when things turned. A blurry video of Madison throwing gum into someone's hair. A loop slow-mo of her dumping chocolate milk on a freshman's backpack. A snippet of her yelling, "It's just a joke, chill out." And finally, the smoothie moment edited perfectly with dramatic music and a title card, "When the joke hits back." The auditorium gasped, then laughter, then silence. Madison was frozen on stage, mouth slightly open, her cue cards trembling in her hands. She didn't speak, she didn't move, and when the spotlight finally cut, she turned and walked off stage without finishing her lines. I didn't clap, I didn't cheer, I just watched. It wasn't joy I felt. It was peace. After the assembly, Mr. Vickers approached me. "Did you submit that slideshow?" I met his gaze. "Yes, sir. It was part of my student project proposal." He didn't even look mad, just tired. "Make sure to run this kind of thing by me next time, all right?" "Yes, sir." That was it. No suspension, no lecture. Just the weight of truth finally landing where it belonged. That evening, I walked home with a light backpack and a lighter heart. 'Cause for once I wasn't the punchline. I was the one holding the mic. The following week was the quietest I'd ever experienced at school. And not because people had forgotten. They remembered everything. Madison didn't show up for 2 days. When she finally returned, she walked the halls in silence, no longer flanked by Zoe and Rachel. Her hair was tied back messily, her eyes sunken behind glasses, and her outfits, once flashy and flawless, looked thrown together like she didn't care anymore. No one whispered behind my back anymore. Instead, they whispered behind hers. Some people called me a hero. Some called me savage. But most respected me. And not just out of fear, because they understood something had changed. I hadn't bullied her back. I hadn't spread lies or thrown punches. I just used her own tactics against her truth exposure embarrassment. I turned her mirror around. One afternoon, as I sat alone on the bleachers after gym, Rachel approached me. She looked awkward, clutching her water bottle like a shield. I just wanted to say, "I'm sorry," she said, not meeting my eyes. "For, laughing, joining in." I nodded, surprised. "Thanks." "She was horrible to you, to a lot of people. I didn't know how to say no." "That's the problem," I replied quietly. "None of you did." She bit her lip, then offered a small smile. "If you ever want to sit with us, well, not us, just me and a couple people, we'd like that." I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. That same day, I found Madison sitting alone at lunch. For once, she looked small, like the world had grown too big for her. I walked past her table, our eyes met. There was no fire in hers anymore, just something hollow. She didn't sneer, she didn't smirk. She nodded, a silent truce. And honestly, that was enough for me. 'Cause I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd gotten something better, dignity. That Friday, I packed my own sandwich again. No dog food, no fear, just peanut butter and jelly and a quiet kind of strength. I sat in the courtyard, headphones and eating under the sun, while other students walked by and smiled instead of stared. Was I popular now? No, but I didn't want to be. I just wanted to be respected, to be left alone, to walk the halls without looking over my shoulder. And finally I was. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't a prank or a show. It's simply proving that you were stronger than they ever imagined. This story isn't about petty revenge. It's about reclaiming power in a world that often steals it from quiet voices. Ellie didn't fight cruelty with cruelty. She exposed it cleverly, creatively, and without stooping to physical harm. Her actions remind us that justice doesn't always come in loud explosions. Sometimes it arrives in silence and strategy, in knowing when to strike and when to walk away. To anyone out there facing bullies, know this. You are not weak for being kind. You are not invisible. And most importantly, you don't have to become them to beat them. Stand your ground. Think smart. And remember that your story isn't over just because someone tried to write you out. Ellie chose to rewrite her ending. So can you. Let your strength be your voice, and let the world listen.